Everyone remembers the worst pain they ever feel in their entire life, you know what I mean? Kind of a hard thing to get rid of out of your mind, especially depending on how bad the pain is. So let's say you broke a bone, you know, you're gonna remember how you broke it because it hurt a lot. So, my worst pain in my entire life I ever felt was an explosion, a fire. And, so I was really young, maybe first or second grade. And, I had watched my father pour gas on a bunch of logs. I used to live out in the country. And he made a trail that went away from the logs. We were going to be cooking s'mores that day. I saw him light it on fire, the gas from the trail to the big pile of gas in the middle of the logs, and the fire went up. And me being so young, you know, I thought that was so entertaining. I thought it was the coolest thing I ever seen in my life. And my dad went back inside. I grabbed the gas can and I doused it on my fire that I had built. And the fire went. But I had felt like there was something wrong. Like I felt like if I do that again, something's really not gonna go right. Because the fire had gotten so close to the can, it had gotten so close to me, and I wasn't gonna do it again.
They were super close all their life, and just there's always been conflict between the two because one wasn't able to have children, and he's my older brother. Well, we both are, but one's name is Brian. He isn't able to really have children. It's the only relationship. Like, he got married and he wasn't able to have children, so he's been really envious of my other brother, and my other brother's name is Ethan.
I knew him for 4 years, and I known him since I was 14. Then I stopped associating with him at about 17 years. So I want to say technically I knew him for 3 years. But even before 14, I like saw him around. But my relationship with him now is like, I severed ties with him for my own sake, because I don't want to get back into any of that. Plus, he asked if I wanted to make money off certain things, and I was like, no, probably fucking scam, definitely a scam.
My sister comes along and tells me if I don't do it to her fire too, then she's gonna tell my father. And she knows how abusive my father was. He used to beat me senseless until I have a bruise the size of a basketball on my back. He would just beat the living shit out of me, really. So I did it in order to not get beat, and the gas ran up, when I dumped the gas into the fire ran up the stream of gas into the gas can and exploded in my hand and blew up half my face. And I was wearing an orange tiger sweater, and the sweater I remember was melting to my hand.
He didn't plan on having a kid, but he adapted super well to it, and he's always been really misunderstood and whatnot. But it kind of affected me really well and really badly, because I always held Brian, who always made our mother proud, that type of thing, and Ethan was kind of like the black sheep, self-proclaimed, and he kind of was. He was always like, really, he was blamed for everything. A lot. And I feel so bad about it now. Because I look back and I'm like, wow, I just thought he was a problem child. But he wasn't any of that. But it took this event happening for me to really understand who these two people were that I thought I knew.
I was walking around my neighborhood one day, and I saw him, and I recognized him because I saw him around and said, hey. And I think from there, the next thing I remember is we start talking about smoking, and we idiotically start smoking paper for fun. It was so dumb. Just straight up paper. Then it escalated. Like how I use it went to cigarettes at that point, and we would idiotically, while I was 14, he was like 12. We would just be like picking up like cigarettes that were like off the street or like from his mom, and it's pretty dumb, but like you would like burn the butt of the cigarette so you get some of the germs and possible STDs off. Luckily I have no STDs. Yeah, it's pretty goddamn nasty.
I went running to the back door, and we had a big glass back door. And my dad saw me on fire and yelling, and he came running out. He grabbed me and he put me in the bathtub. I remember the my skin floating in the water in the bathtub. I remember almost every detail. I remember me telling him that I want to go to sleep, and telling him to put me in my bed, let me go to sleep so I could not feel the pain anymore. And he kept telling me he couldn't because it would get infected. Then I ended up fainting in the bathtub because I was under so much pain. Then I remember an ambulance. I remember waking up in an ambulance, and then they ended up putting me back to sleep.
One night, Ethan was like super drunk, probably had maybe one or two other things in his system, and he just wanted to go home. He wasn't interested in anybody walking him home or anything. He lived about a mile or two away, and my brother Brian was already aggravated with him, but he decided, hey, I don't want you walking along the roads at night. I'll walk with you. They didn't even get half a mile down the road, and my mom had a terrible feeling, so she hopped in her car and she drove down the road, only to find out that my brother Brian had his face his face was really bloodied all over. It was kind of smashed in, and he was yelling for help. And my brother Ethan was hobbling away. He was already about 500 feet away. They both go to the hospital. My mom comes back and picks them both up, and they both go to the hospital. And it turns out that my brother Brian had started bad-mouthing Ethan's daughter, which she was only 7. There was no reason to bad-mouth her. But that set Ethan off. And Ethan didn't even throw one punch. And my brother Brian, who is 6'6", landed 15 kicks into my brother's chest. And he had a punctured lung. He had broken ribs. And it was a mess. And Brian had 2 broken occipital bones. They were both really badly injured, but Ethan, instead of being like, oh, he started this, he's the one that kicked first, he said, listen, bro, whatever you say is the truth, because I don't want any problems. And my brother Brian decided it would be a great idea to try to get my brother, who has a child, thrown in jail, prison, for 15 years for attempted murder.
We started talking to each other 6 months later about finding some weed, and at one point he was all like, wait, I know somebody. And it's kind of funny. It's like we've been smoking cigarettes and paper. It's like, oh, we haven't tried weed yet. So that's where that friendship like really escalated, and also escalated into just a huge escapade in drug experimentation. Which was interesting. About 6 months to a year after we started smoking weed, he started getting a bit too comfortable, and also started getting into some bad crowds. He always expected me to have some weed, and I would expect him to always have some too, kind of, because there's a thing that is called matching, like I think this is in some songs, like from rappers, like talking about like matching weed. So you use some of your weed and they use some of theirs, and then you like put it in the same pipe or bong or blunt wraps or papers. Yeah.
I remember waking up at the hospital for the first time with my eyes swollen shut so I couldn't see anything. I honestly thought I was dead. So I was freaking out, and I remember the doctors put me back to sleep because I was freaking out. I remember waking up again, barely being able to squint my eyes open, and then going back to sleep. And then I remember waking up again, and this time I could fully see. And I remember the doctor coming in the room and saying that if I don't start moving my hand, I'll never be able to move it again. Because I had blown all the nerves out of my hand, out of my right hand. And they're badly damaged. And in order me to save my hand, I gotta start moving it more. And so the reason why I got addicted to video games is because for me to move my hand, they bought me a little Game Boy that had Frogger on it. And I'd play that the entire time I was in the hospital. So that's what got me into the video game.
Of course, we fought it, and the math didn't add up or anything. But by some miracle, my brother only got off. My brother Ethan only got out with just a year of probation, which I don't know how. Because he looked so bad, but at the end of it all, he looked at me and he said, I'm not mad at him. I don't think that, either of us was in the wrong or in the right, but I forgive him and I'm not gonna care about it, but this person I thought was just, I thought he was malicious, I thought he was a terrible person, turned out to be the most forgiving person I had ever met. He was always forgiving, and it took me so long to see that. It took him almost being gone for 15 years, and he told me that he already had a cyanide pill ready to go if they declared him to go to prison for 15 years. And then you have Brian, who started it all, and I thought he was the world, but it turns out he was lower than scum and lower than dirt.
So we found this cool spot to smoke at, which was in this backyard, but it had this huge empty pool. And so we would just chill there and smoke. And then at the third day that we went there, one of them said, I believe it was Dylan and the other friend, they decided to break the wood that was on the back door guarding, like, the back door that was very weak and easy to break, and they idiotically, broke it. And we got a way in, then, we found ourselves in a garage with a car in it that was open. And one of them could pick locks pretty good. That was Dylan. And he so he picked the lock that went from the garage door, to get to the rest of the house. And we look around and there's a whole bunch of stuff. Figures this was the house of a military guy, like a person in the military. And we, oh my god! So there were guns, and the gun rack was actually unsecure. It literally was not locked or anything. So they opened it, they got those guns, not all of them, some of them, and oh my god, I told them not to take the freaking guns, and they brought the guns home. Then the next day we went back to the house to go smoke. And actually, well, the day that they got the guns, we also found a huge jar of coins that in when we brought it to a coin star, it was $111 or so. And God, so we took that $111 and we spent it on weed, of course, and then the next day we smoked in the car, and next thing we know that you see a light shine into the garage, and this is a police light.
I never forgave my sister for telling me that until about a year ago. I always held a grudge over it because I told her I didn't want to do it, and she kind of basically forced me to do it, and she feels terrible about it. But I finally forgave her, and I felt like she didn't deserve the forgiveness, to be honest with you. Not at all. I felt like it was all her fault that I didn't want to do it, and if someone was going to do it, it should have been her. But I'd rather it be me than her, you know, because she's my family. And, yeah, I ended up forgiving her about it. That was really about it.
You could either have an amazing, wonderful person that doesn't know how to express it, and you can have someone who puts on a facade and who is just a terrible person. And so you can't judge by gender or anything like that. And I guess you just need to learn somebody, even if they're your own brother that you've known for all your life. But I'm happy it happened, so then I got to know him more. And I love him more because of it, and I can't believe I ever thought what I did. And I know not to take what the other one says very seriously anymore because he's a dickwad. But they're still my brothers, and I still talk to both of them. Though I have very different views of them than I did before it all started. Very different. Sorry, that got a little... oof.
Oh my God, we freaked out at this point. I still remember the song playing. Smoking this weed without no permission. And it was no permission from Wiz Khalifa. That's what it was. God. And we kept telling Cole, the other friend, to... Oh, my mom's calling, I'm gonna mute that. We kept telling Cole, me and Dylan, we kept telling him to, like, duck, you know, like, because he was still trying to light another bowl whenever he saw the light, too, like an idiot. And you know, he literally, like, gave us away, basically. But we were pretty visible anyway, so, you know, that led to a juvie experience that literally gave me PTSD.
Well, I was in first grade or second grade, so probably around 6, 7, maybe 7, I think. So we were quite young, and that's like the one reason why I even came to the conclusion of forgiving her for it. Because if we would have been any older, you know, I don't think I could have forgiven her. But I realized people make stupid mistakes, you know, and it took a long time to realize that.
Well, I mean, I still talk to them, and I'm still on good terms with both of them. But, I mean, I wouldn't be if it wasn't for... Well, the day before we went to court to go see if Ethan was going to get 15 years of prison or not, I actually went out on a limb and I spoke to Brian. And I said, bro, I turned off my phone, I sat on his couch, I'm like, bro, listen, I'm not here for anything except I don't want to lose a brother after this. That's it. I just want to talk to you, and he was not talking to us for months before that. It was like 8 months, and he went stone cold on communications. He hated us. And I went over to his house, I knocked on his door, I sat on his couch, turned off my phone, and I said, I just don't want to lose you as a brother. That's it. I love you. I don't want to lose you. I know you're not happy with him. I'm not happy about it. I know he's not happy with you. But I don't care because I want you as a brother. I don't care. I just want you to be around. I don't want to tell my children that there is an uncle that they can't see. I just want him to be in my life because he is a good person. Just, he's not compatible with some people. And so, for someone in my situation, just your family matters. Even if it seems like it doesn't, even if they seem like they are lower than dirt and they're a terrible person, you still want them around because they're your blood. And, I mean, of course, if they did something terrible to you, sure, but I don't know, family's just really important to me, and that's just the thing that I like, so I want to keep them close, regardless of what they've done. I'm a believer in second chances, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I've had a lot of fucked up shit happen in my life. A lot. Like, shit, I can tell you a story about how my dad passed away, man. He passed away 2 years ago in a car accident. And I only knew him for 4 years. My real dad. I know. Yeah, my stepfather was the abusive one, but when I got away from him, when I was about 14 years old, I finally got to live with my mom, because I took pictures of drugs in the house that he was doing. He had built a meth lab and shit, and it exploded, and I just got tired of the shit, you know what I mean? So I took pictures on my cell phone, and I sent it to my mother, and I told my mother I want out of here. And that's how I got away from my dad. I just hated him so much that I refused to believe I was his kid, and I wanted to get a DNA test done. So we ended up getting a mouth swab test, and it turned out he wasn't my dad. So I ended up finding out myself that that's not my dad. And finding out someone else was my dad, and then 4 years later he ends up passing away in a car accident. My real dad did. So life's full of pain, and it sucks. So that's one lesson to take from this. I didn't see this. This is another thing. I had to forgive him for all the abuse he did to me because he raised me. You know what I mean? And I could have been raised better, but you know what? My real dad wasn't around to raise me, and he was. So that's the way I look at it.
The reason why I forgive him, the reason why I forgive this person is simply because they're going through their own thing. Their mom is a huge meth head. Probably was smoking meth ever since, well, he was born. You know, everyone else is going through their same, problems. I'm going through my problems, and if I don't forgive that person, how am I gonna forgive myself, And that's the reason why I forgave that person. It's because I was like a mirrored reflection of what he created out of me that I had to forgive myself. And I fully forgive that person. Fuck yeah.
It's a good thing to get these things from people, man. Like it's life out there, and some people think that they're alone in this world. You know what I mean? A lot of people think that they're alone in this world, and they're not. There's a lot of like people who deal with abuse and stuff. They think that they're alone. They think that no one else has ever dealt with this kind of stuff that they're dealing with. And I try to explain it to people. You're one person that has lived one life. Now, what do you think about other people who have lived multiple lives? You know what I mean? Like, because you gotta think about multiple people, and then their lives too. So that's multiple more lives, and no one's life is gonna be peachy and perfect. No one's gonna have to deal with hardship. Love your scars. Every scar on your body tells a story. Don't hate yourself for it. Scars don't look pretty. None do. None ever do. But when you look at your scar, it's a bad story, yeah, but it's a memory, and it's a memory you want to hold on to. Because most of the time, if you have a scar, it's going to be due to one of the worst pains you've ever felt. Like, and it doesn't matter how big or how little the scar is. That scar is always going to be stuck in your head. It's always going to be a memory. So, let's just say you got a scratch on your arm. If that scratch goes away and there's no scar, you'll probably end up forgetting it. You'll probably never remember it. But for me, I got, let's just say there was something I should have forgot, but I didn't. And here's the reasoning of why. A little while ago, maybe 3 years ago, I had a friend who melted the end of a rope and was swinging it. The melted part dripped and hit me in my elbow, and now I got a little small scar there. And the only reason I remember it is because of the scar. You see what I mean? So, in my opinion, a scar helps you remember things that you would somewhat forget. And you don't want to forget your past. That's the one thing I can say. I have very, very, very bad memory, so the little parts I do remember, it's like a blessing to me, you know? Granted, it is a painful memory. When I got burned a second time, I let the fire sit there without even touching it, because I know what the pain feels like, and I just dealt with it, you know? Rather than say, like, let's just say this, you know, with the burns on my hand, and me getting burned by that hot rope, I knew that if I tried to touch it with my fingers to get it off, it's gonna burn my fingers. You know, I'm not an idiot. But if I hadn't gone through that pain with fire originally, I feel like I would have been the idiot that tried to take it off, you know, with my finger and burned my finger. So instead of what I did is I just went through the pain. I let it burn out. Any scar I've ever gotten, I always remember how I got it. I can tell you the entire story. I won't forget a piece. I won't change a piece. You can tell a story and you'll end up changing something about that story, because a piece will end up getting replaced in your head unless you just have insanely good memory, you know? But if you get a scar, most of the time, in general, you don't forget it at all. There's a lot of deep thoughts go into this game. Behind almost every person in this game is a story that is deeper than the next one, you know? It digs into the soul.